Welcome to the Madison Miller Podcast. Today is Monday, February 2nd, 2026. We have made it to February. So, today's show, college basketball, NBA, NHL, soccer, tennis, golf, on this day, news and notes, and best bet. We will begin with college basketball. We will go over the results from the weekend and then look ahead to tonight. It was a very interesting weekend, to say the least. Friday, Georgia Southern over Yale Monroe, 79-76. Cornell over Princeton, 87-64. Akron over Kent State, 69-52. Youngstown State over IU Indy, 85-76. Siena over Niagara, 82-79. Charlotte over Rice, 80-70. Fairfield over Iona, 71-70. Villanova over Providence, 87-73. Sacred Heart over Quinnipiac, 98-91. Yale over Dartmouth, 83-68. Cleveland State over Green Bay, 89-82. Detroit Mercy over Northern Kentucky, 90-77. Marist over Canisius, 88-86 in OT. Manhattan over Rider, 95-90. Harvard over Brown, 69-59. Columbia over Penn, 72-67. Number 3 Michigan over number 7 Michigan State, 83-71. Number 21 St. Louis over Dayton, 102-71. Rice State over Milwaukee, 76-69. St. Peter's over Mount St. Mary's, 66-58. VC over Loyola Chicago, 89-75. Grand Canyon over Boise State, 86-79. And Nevada over UNLV, 89-76. I gotta do a mock bracket soon. We're in February, for crying out loud. All right, Saturday. Number 4 Duke over Virginia Tech, 72-58. Number 10 Houston over Cincinnati, 76-54. UCF over number 11 Texas Tech, 88-80. Number 22 Clemson over Pitt, 63-52. Winthrop over UNC Asheville, 84-71. Seton Hall over Marquette, 69-64. Georgetown over Butler, 77-64. NC State over Wake Forest, 96-78. Toledo over Ball State, 73-55. Campbell over William & Mary, 104-96. Stony Brook over Elon, 72-68. La Citadel over UNC Greensboro, 71-66. Valpo over Indiana State, 76-72 in OT. Army over Holy Cross, 69-68. Utah State over San Diego State, 71-66. Xavier over DePaul, 68-66. Purdue Fort Wayne over Robert Morris, 83-71. Stonehill over Le Moyne, 65-54. Wagner over Fairleigh Dickinson, 75-72 in OT. LSU over South Carolina, 92-87 in OT. Texas A&M over Georgia, 92-77. Number 17 Virginia over BC, 73-66. Number 1 Arizona over Arizona State, 87-74. Number 16 North Carolina over Georgia Tech, 91-75. Number 20 Louisville over SMU, 88-74. Lehigh over Colgate, 77-76 in OT. Lafayette over American, 67-65. Fordham over George Washington, 79-65. Wisconsin over Ohio State, 92-82. Bucknell over BU, 103-97 in double OT. Radford over Presbyterian, 93-84 in double OT. Chicago State over Mercy State, 78-74. Ohio over Buffalo, 95-83. LA over Central Connecticut, 80-59. UMass Lowell over Maine, 91-77. Charleston over Northeastern, 89-84. Drexel over NCAT, 61-60. Towson over Hampton, 82-50. Hofstra over Monmouth, 73-57. Mercer over VMI, 95-81. Texas State over Old Dominion, 81-64. Texas over Oklahoma, 79-69. Bellarmine over Queens, 78-75. North Alabama over Stetson, 68-66. Lipscomb over North Florida, 194. St. Joe's over LaSalle, 67-58. High Point over Longwood, 71-59. Fresno State over Air Force, 79-62. South Dakota State over Oral Roberts, 95-72. Marshall over Arkansas State, 70-61. Southern Miss over James Madison, 73-65. Weber State over Idaho State, 81-79. Florida Gulf Coast over Jacksonville, 68-49. Cal Baptist over Texas Arlington, 87-77 in OT. Missouri State over Jacksonville State, 74-67. Number 24, Miami of Ohio over Northern Illinois, 85-61. Bethune over Alabama State, 69-54. Missouri over Mississippi State, 84-79. Lindenwood over Morgan State, 79-78. Northern Iowa over Evansville, 71-55. Howard over Norfolk State, 88-60. Baylor over West Virginia, 63-53. Arkansas Pine Bluff over Miss Valley State, 78-70. Grambling over Jackson State, 69-66. Cal over Miami, 86-85. Navy over Loyola Maryland, 87-71. Omaha over Denver, 84-82. Bryan over New Hampshire, 92-84. Hawaii over Long Beach State, 89-82. Louisiana over Georgia Southern, 69-60. Northern Colorado over Eastern Washington, 74-71. Southern Utah over Abilene Christian, 79-76. Western Kentucky over Middle Tennessee, 65-60. Tennessee Tech over Little Rock, 87-77. Number 14, Kansas over number 13, BYU, 90-82. Davidson over Richmond, 79-54. Morgan State over Coppin State, 89-80. A&M Corpus Christi over Houston Christian, 73-71. NJIT over Vermont 79-77. App State over Troy 66-60 or 66-44. Central Arkansas over Eastern Kentucky 90-81. Austin Peay over West Georgia 81-78. Tennessee Martin over Western Illinois 84-44. Southeast Missouri State over Eastern Illinois 77-59. Alcorn State over Southern 78-73. Delaware State over Maryland Eastern 65-57. Indiana over UCLA 98-97 in double overtime. UC Davis over Bakersfield 80-72. Texas Rio Grande over Incarnate Word 106-93. Portland State over Montana State 63-54. Utah Tech over Tarleton State 65-59. Kennesaw State over New Mexico State 76-53. Prairie View over Texas Southern 85-78. Alabama A&M over Florida A&M 72-65. Number 18 Vandy over Ole Miss 71-68. Bradley over Drake 87-73. Wazoo over Portland 104-74. Oregon State over San Diego 78-76 in OT. Syracuse over Notre Dame 86-72. Dartmouth over Brown 77-70 in OT. Princeton over Columbia 80-68. North Dakota State over South Dakota 89-84 in OT. UMass over Eastern Michigan 70-67. Penn over Cornell 91-81. Stephen F. Austin over Southeast Louisiana 85-58. New Orleans over Northwestern State 75-64. Nichols over East Texas A&M 72-68. Oklahoma State over Utah 81-69. Florida State over Stanford 88-80. George Mason over St. Bonaventure 77-73. Kentucky upsets number 15 Arkansas 85-77. UIC over Southern Illinois 68-66. USC over Rutgers 78-75. Central Michigan over Bowling Green 62-59. Harvard over Yale 67-65. New Hampton over St. Francis 81-69. UMBC over Albany 68-65. McNeese over Lamar 64-63. Number 2 UConn over Creighton 85-58. Belmont over Murray State 103-86. UAB over North Texas 72-68. Washington over Northwestern 76-62. Cal Poly over UC Riverside 94-87. Cal State Northridge over UC San Diego 81-64. South Alabama over Georgia State 69-67. Idaho over Northern Arizona 79-62. Temple over South Florida 79-78. SAU Edwards over Southern Indiana 58-46. Tennessee over Auburn 77-69. Santa Clara over Loyola Marymount 104-73. Santa Barbara over Fullerton 83-69. UTEP over Delaware 70-55. Wyoming over Colorado State 68-57. New Mexico over San Jose State 90-80. San Fran over Pacific 87-82. Sac State over Montana 86-79. Sam Houston over La Tech 83-67. Number 6 Gonzaga over St. Mary 73-65. All right, now Sunday. Duquesne over Rhode Island 76-61. Number 12 Purdue over Maryland 93-63. Number 19 Florida over number 23 Alabama 177. Merrimack over Sacred Heart 75-58. Siena over Canisius 78-63. Stanford over Western Carolina 88-74. Furman over Chattanooga 75-70. Number 8 Iowa State over Kansas State 95-61. St. Thomas over KC 99-64. Tulsa over Wichita State 93-83. East Carolina over FAU 76-75. Colorado over TCU 87-61. Penn State over Minnesota 77-75. Rider over St. Peter's 81-78. Quinnipiac over Fairfield 72-65. Wright State over Green Bay 83-75. Marist over Niagara 58-46. Mount St. Mary's over Manhattan 72-65. Coastal over Yale Monroe 83-79. Tulane over Memphis 78-76. Cleveland State over Milwaukee 90-88. Oakland over Northern Kentucky 76-65. Number 9 Illinois over number 5 Nebraska 78-69. East Tennessee State over Wofford 86-72. Iowa over Oregon 84-66. All right, now today 4:30 Maryland Eastern NC Central. My line is NC Central 2.1 total 141. Yes, I had time to do totals today. It's a new month and it's closer. We're 6 weeks away from the tournament. So, got to get rocking and rolling. So, it's 2.5 and 134.5. My pick's going to be the over. 6 o'clock. Howard, Coppin State. I have Howard 5.3, total 145.5. And it's 13.5, 146.5. That is way too high. Give me Coppin State plus 13.5. 7 o'clock. ESPN, Syracuse, number 14, North Carolina. My line here is UNC 6.1, total 149 and 11/20. And it is 11.5 and 157.5. So I have a 5.5 about edge on Syracuse. But the under is where my bigger edge is. So I'm going to go with the under. Florida, A&M, Alabama State. Miami's Bama State, 0.2, total 149 and 11/20. And it's 3.5, 141.5. Over. BU Holy Cross, CBS Sports Network. I have Holy Cross by a half, total 146 and 4/5. And it's BU 2.5, total 139.5. That's going to be another over. Southeast Louisiana against Lamar. My line is Lamar 6.7, total 138 and 13/20. It's 5.5, 132.5. Over. Houston Christian, Texas Rio Grande at 7:30. My line is Texas Rio Grande 6.3, total 143 and 2/5. And it's 8.5 and 140.5. So I have to go over. Nichols, Northwestern State. My line is Northwestern State 0.7, total 148 and 9/20. And it's Nichols 1.5, total 146.5. So the pick here is going to be Northwestern State plus 1.5 and plus 104 outright. Here's a good one in the Southland. McNeese, Stephen F. Austin, game of the year in that conference so far. My line is Stephen F. Austin 3.7, total 143 and 13/20. And it's McNeese 1.5, total 141.5. I think the wrong team's favorite. Give you Stephen F. Austin plus 1.5 and plus 112 outright at home. New Orleans, East Texas A&M. My line is East Texas A&M 0.4, total 149 and 7/20. And it's New Orleans 1.5, total 150.5. Slight lean. East Texas A&M plus 1.5 and plus 105. All these 1.5 underdogs in this conference. 8 o'clock, Bethune, Alabama A&M. I have Bama A&M 1.7, total 148 and 2/5. And it's Bethune 3.5, total 141.5. So I'm going to go with the over. Grambling, Alcorn State. My line is Grambling 0.9, total 148 and 7/20. 6.5, 143.5. That's too high. Give me Alcorn State plus 6.5 to cover. Southern, Jackson State. My line is Jackson State 3.2, total 155 and 2/5. And it's Southern 5.5, total 152.5. Whoa. Give me Jackson State plus 5.5 and plus 210 to win the game outright. I think that is too high for Southern. Incarnate Word, A&M Corpus Christi, CBS Sports Network. My line is Corpus Christi 4.5, total 141 and 3/4. And it is... It's funny, FanDuel says the game starts at 9, and this thing says it starts at 8. Maybe it is 9. 6.5 and 138.5 is the numbers here. I'm going to go with the over. 8:30, Tennessee Tech, Tennessee State. My State by 10, total 151 and 3/10. And it's 9.5, 153.5. Under. Don't feel great about it, though. All right, game of the night, 9 o'clock, ESPN. Number 11, Kansas. Number 13, Texas Tech. Big 12, Darren Peterson will probably play. My line's Texas Tech, 3.7, total 152 and 3/5. And it's 4.5 and 154.5. Slight under. I think that be a good game featuring Peterson and Jacob Toppin. 10 o'clock. Weber State, Sac State. My line's Sac State 2.1, total 159 in the 20th. And it's 1.5 and 164.5. I like the under in that game. That's too high. And then Idaho State, Portland State. My line's Portland State 10.9, total 147 and 11/20. And it is 6.5 and 135.5. I'm going to take the over. So I guess... Oh, Gardner-Webb, Charleston Southern is 6 o'clock. It's just not listed on ESPN. So I had Charleston Southern 8 3/4, total 156 and 17/20, and it's 17.5 and 158.5. I'm going to take Gardner-Webb to cover the point spread. I think that's a little too high. Okay, now I'll move on to the NBA. We'll go over the results from the weekend and look ahead to tonight. There's only 4 games tonight, which is the least amount of games I've seen on a weeknight in a while. Friday night, Lakers over the Wizards, 142-111. Magic over the Raptors, 130-120. Celtics over the Kings, 112-93. Knicks over the Blazers, 127-97. Pelicans over the Grizzlies, 114-106. Suns over the Cavs, 126-113. Nuggets over the Clippers, 122-109. Nets over the Jazz, 109-99. And the Pistons over the Warriors, 131-124. I pretty much nailed the NBA card with the exception of the Raptors Magic game on Friday night with who I liked. Saturday, Hornets over the Spurs, 111-106. Pacers over the Hawks, 129-124. Sixers over the Pelicans, 124-114. Bulls over the Heat, 125-118. T-Wolves over the Grizzlies, 131-114. And the Rockets over the Mavs, 111-107. And then Sunday, the Celtics over the Bucks, 107-79. Pistons over the Nets, 130-77. Heat over the Bulls, 134-91. Knicks over the Lakers, 112-100. Jazz lose at Toronto, 107-100. Wizards over the Kings, 116-112. Clippers over the Suns, 117-93. Spurs over the Magic, 112-103. Cavs over the Blazers, 131-111. And the Thunder over the Nuggets, 121-111. All right, like I said, 4 games today, 3 o'clock, Pelicans, Hornets. My line is the Hornets, 10 7/8. And it is 6.5 and 230.5. I'm going to lay 6.5 with Charlotte. They're the better team. I really like that pick. Rockets, Pacers. My line is the Rockets by 6. Total 227.5, and it's 6.5 and 218.5. I like the over. 7:30 on Peacock, T-Wolves, Grizzlies. I have the T-Wolves 6 and 7/8. Total 232 and 3/10. And it's 6.5, 229.5. I love Minnesota minus 6.5. I don't know why it's that low. Anthony Edwards, easily best guy on the court. Come on. And then on Peacock, Sixers, Clippers. My the Clippers by 2 till 228 and 9/10. No Paul George, obviously. And it is 2 and 220.5. I like the over. Not spot, especially in the Clippers game. Okay, now move on to hockey. We'll go over the results from the weekend and look ahead to today. I think tonight's light too, and then tomorrow's the heavy. Oh no, there's a lot of games today. Interesting. We only have a couple more days of hockey until the Olympic freeze, which will not be good for the podcast, obviously. So Friday, Blackhawks lose at home to the Blue Jackets 4-2. Saturday, Kings over the Flyers 3-2 OT. Avs over the Red Wings 5-0. Pens over the Rangers 6-5. That game was not that close early on. Jets over the Panthers 2-1. Flames over the Sharks 3-2. Caps over the Canes 4-3 OT. Habs over the Sabres 4-2. Sens over the Devils 4-1. Preds over the Islanders 4-3. Blue Jackets over the Blues 5-3. Leafs over the Canucks 3-2 shootout. Stars over the Mammoth 3-2. Wild over the Oilers 7-3. And the Kraken over the Golden Knights 3-2. And then Sunday, Canes over the Kings 3-2 in OT. Stadium Series, Lightning over the Bruins 6-5 in a shootout. Everyone says that was the best Stadium Series game ever. I still think it was the MetLife Stadium game. Everyone's saying that because there was a fight in that game. Ducks over the Golden Knights 4-3. That was a good win for Anaheim. All right, 7 o'clock tonight. Sabres Panthers. Prove it spot for the Buffalo Sabres on the road against the two-time reigning Stanley Cup champions. Panthers minus 120. Sabres even money over under 6.5. Overs plus 108. Unders minus 132. Sabres plus 1.5 is minus 260. Panthers minus 1.5 is plus 205. First one, I'm going to go all total. Under 5.5 plus 120. Sens Penguins. Sens minus 118. Pens minus 102 over under 6.5. Overs minus 102. Unders minus 120. Sens minus 1.5 plus 194. Pens plus 1.5 minus 245. I don't know why Ottawa's favored. Is Sidney Crosby hurt or something? Why on earth is Ottawa favored in Pittsburgh? Is he out? No. I like the Penguins at home, minus 102. I don't know why they're a dog. I think this is like a market correction game that needs to be corrected. Isles Capitals. Caps minus 128. Isles plus 106. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 112. Unders minus 108. Isles plus 1.5 minus 230. Caps minus 1.5 plus 184. I like the under. 7:30 Habs Wild. Wild minus 128. Habs plus 106. Over under 6.5 minus 110 each way. Habs plus 1.5 minus 225. Wild minus 1.5 plus 180. I like the under in that one as well. Blues Preds at 8. Preds minus 146. Blues plus 122. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 128. Unders plus 104. Blues plus 1.5 is minus 20. Preds minus 1.5 is plus 176. Like the under at plus money. 8:30 Sharks Blackhawks from Chicago. Sharks minus 118. Blackhawks minus 102. Over under 6.5. Overs plus 102. Unders minus 124. Sharks minus 1.5 plus 10. Blackhawks plus 1.5 is minus 265. I like the Sharks at minus 118. Jets Stars. Stars minus 146. Jets plus 125. Over under 5.5. Overs minus 118. Unders minus 104. Jets plus 1.5 is minus 625. Stars minus 1.5 is plus 180. I like the under at minus 104. 9 o'clock, Red Wings Avalanche. Avs minus 200. Red Wings plus 164. Over under 6.5. Overs plus 104. Unders minus 128. Detroit plus 1.5 is minus 148. Avs minus 1.5 plus 120. This is a proven spot for the Red Wings. But like over 6.5 goals at plus 104. 9:30, Canucks Mammoth. Mammoth minus 265. Vancouver plus 215. Over under 6.5. Overs minus 105. Unders minus 115. Vancouver plus 1.5 is minus 122. Mammoth minus 1.5 is minus 102. I'm surprised the Mammoth are this big as a favorite. I like over 6.5 at minus 105. And last but not least, 10 o'clock, Leafs Flames. Leafs minus 114. Flames minus 105. Over under 6.5. Overs even money. Unders minus 122. Leafs minus 1.5 plus 198. Flames plus 1.5 is minus 250. I like the Maple Leafs on the road at minus 114. Now I'll move on to soccer. We'll go over the results from yesterday and then look ahead to today and a little bit of tomorrow. And then obviously from the weekend. All right, Friday. La Liga. Alaves over Espanyol 2-1. Bundesliga. FC Cologne over VfL Wolfsburg 1-0. Liga MX. Puebla Toluca 0-0 draw. UNAM over Santos 4-0. And Cruz Azul over FC Juarez 4-3. Serie A. Lazio over Genoa 3-2. French League 1. Lens over Le Havre AC 1-0. ELC. Derby County over Bristol City 5-0. Dutch Eredivisie. NAC Breda over FC 22-2. Pro League Al Tawun Al Okdod 1-0. Al Tawun wins. Al Nassr over Okdod or Al Khalod 3-0 and Neon Messi over Damak 3-0. And then Premier League, Brighton Hove Everton 1-1 draw. Arsenal over Leeds 4-0. AFC Bournemouth over Wolverhampton 2-0. Chelsea over West Ham 3-2. Liverpool over Newcastle 4-1. La Liga Real Oviedo over Girona 1-0. Osasuna Villarreal 2-2 draw. Levante Atletico Madrid 0-0 draw. And Barcelona over Elche 3-1. Bundesliga Bayer Leverkusen over Frankfurt 3-1. FC Augsburg over St. Pauli 2-1. Mainz over RP Leipzig 2-1. Hoffenheim over FC Berlin 3-1. Bremen Borussia Mönchengladbach 1-1 draw. And Hamburg Bayern 2-2 draw. Liga MX America over Necaxa 2-0. Atlas over Mazatlan 1-0. Guadalajara over Atletico de San Luis 3-2. Monterrey Tijuana 2-2 draw. And Tigres over Leon 2-1. Serie A, Sassuolo over Pisa 3-1. Napoli over Fiorentina 2-1. Cagliari Verona. Cagliari wins 4-0. French League 1. Marseille Paris FC 2-2 draw. Lorient over Nantes 2-1. Nice Monaco over Stade Rennes 4-0. Women's Super League Leicester City Arsenal was postponed. ELC Charlton Athletic over Leicester City 2-0. Wrexham over Sheffield Wednesday 1-0. Southampton over Stoke City 2-0. 2-0. Hull City over Blackburn Rovers 1-0. Ipswich Town Preston 1-1 draw. Borough over Norwich 1-0. Millwall Sheffield 1-1 draw. Birmingham City over Oxford United 2-0. Portsmouth over West Brom 3-0. Queen's Park over Coventry City 2-1. And Swansea City over Watford 2-0. Dutch Eredivisie. NEC Nijmegen over AS Alkmaar 3-1. PSV Zwolle over Telstar 4-1. And Sparta over FC Groningen 2-0. Scottish Premiership, Kilmarnock over Aberdeen 3-0. Motherwell over Livingston 2-0. St. Mary Dundee 0-0 draw. And Hearts over Dundee 3-0. And then club friendly Inter Miami over Atletico 2-1. All right, Sunday. EPL, Brentford over Aston Villa 1-0. Man United over Fulham 3-2. Nottingham Crystal Palace 1-1 draw. Tottenham Man City 2-2 draw. La Liga Real Madrid over Real Valenciano 2-1. Real Betis over Valencia 2-1. Getafe Celta Vigo 0-0 draw. Athletic Club Real Sociedad 1-1 draw. Bundesliga VfB Stuttgart over SC Freiburg 1-0. Dortmund over Heidenheim 3-2. Women's Champions Cup, Gotham over ASS Far 4-0. And Arsenal over Corinthians 3-2. Liga MX Pachuca Querétaro 0-0 draw. Serie A Torino over Lecce 1-0. Como at Atalanta 1-1 or 0-0 draw. Inter over Cremonese 2-0. And Juventus over Parma 4-1. French League 1. Lyon over Lille 1-0. Angers over Metz 1-0. Nice Brest 2-2 draw. Toulouse over Ajax or Toulouse Ajax are 0-0 draw. PSG for Strasbourg 2-1. Women's Super League, London City over Brighton and Hove 2-1. Everton over Aston Villa 2-1. Man United over Liverpool 3-1. Tottenham over West Ham 2-1. And Man City over Chelsea 5-1. Dutch Eredivisie, Excelsior Ajax 2-2 draw. Heracles over Fortuna 2-1. PSV Eindhoven over Feyenoord 3-0. Heerenveen Utrecht 1-1 draw. FC Volendam Go Ahead Eagles 1-1 draw. The Pro League, Al Shabab over Faya 1-0. Al Fateh Al Hazim 1-1 draw. And Al Ittihad over Al Najba 1-0. French Premier League, OL Lyonnais over PSG 1-0. In Premiership, Hibernian Rangers 2-2 draw. And Celtic over Falkirk 2-0. All right, now today, going on now, EPL, Sunderland, Burnley, La Liga, Mallorca, Sevilla, Serie A, Udinese, AS Roma. Pro League Finals, Al Nassr, Al Raida 1-0, Al Hilal, Al Ali 1-1 draw, and Al Akdoud, Niam SC 1-1 draw. So not a lot of soccer today. Tomorrow, Pro League we'll just hit on real quick. 10:40 Damak Al Akdoud, 12:30 El Etifak and Al Tawoun, and Al Khalij and Al Kidiash. And the rest we'll pick on tomorrow's show. All right, so there you have it for soccer. Now move on to tennis. We will go over the Australian Open Championship results in the men and the women. It was a fun tournament this year. So the women's final happened first, and that was Friday night and the Saturday. And 5-seed Elena Rybakina upset 1-seed Arena Sabalenka in 3 sets to win the 2026 Women's Australian Open title. And then on the men's side on Saturday overnight, 1-seed Carlos Alcaraz over 4-seed Novak Djokovic in 4 sets to win the men's title of the 2026 Australian Open. So the French Open is the next big tennis tournament, May 24th to June 7th. So that's Memorial Day. U.S. Open is the August 23rd to September 13th. So that overlaps with the start of the NFL season. And then we have the Paris Open. Oh, the Wimbledon. So we have the French Open in Paris. That's May 18th to June 7th. So that's around Memorial Day. And then the Wimbledon is at the end of June. So that overlaps with NBA free agency and the NHL free agency. And then we talked about the U.S. Open already. So no tennis again until the middle of May while we're doing NBA playoffs and into Memorial Day. And obviously the Stanley Cup playoffs will be going on as well. And I think the World Cup overlaps with that. So the World Cup's in between the two tennis stuff. And I think it overlaps with the tennis. So, wow, we're in for a big summer. And then we have the Winter Olympics coming up. So that begins on Wednesday. So maybe I'll do a special show tomorrow on the Olympics. Okay, now move on to golf. We will go over the results from the last tournament we had, which was the Farmers Insurance Open. And your winner, who scored 23 under, was Justin Rose. Coming in second with 16 under was a tie. Saibu Kim, Ryo Hisatune, and Pearson Coody. Pearson Coody? Where'd that come from? Tied for 5th with 15 under, Stefan Yeager, Jake Knapp. Tied for 7th with 14 under, Andrew Novak, Steve Thiglia, Joel Dahman. 10th by himself with 13 under, Matt McNeely. Tied for 11th, 12 under, Tony Finau, Ryan Gerard, Adam Shane, Keith Mitchell, Hideki Matsuyama, Hatong Lee, Siemens Power. Tied for 18th with 11 under, Chris Goddard, Matt McCarty, Michael Jordan, David Lipsky. Tied for 22nd with 10 under, Chad Ramey, Cam Young, Nikolai Hojard, Harry English, and Chris Ventura. Tied for 27th with 9 under, Patrick Rogers, Kristen Ziedenhout, Eric Cole. Tied for 30th at 8 under, Christopher Rayton, Adam Scott, Isaiah Salinda, Rasmus Hojard, Sam Stevens, Dan Brown, Justin Lauer, Max McGreevy. Tied for 38th with 7 under, Emiliano Grillo, Danny Walker, Matthew Pavon, Carl Viltz, and Jason Day. tied for 43rd with 6 under. Ricky Castillo, Davis Thompson, Johnny Kiefer, Keegan Bradley, John Vanderlaan, and John Parry tied for 49th with 5 under. Rasmus Najard Peterson, Zhang Du, Taylor Moore, Austin Eckler, Denny McCarthy, and Mac Miser tied for 56 with 4 under. Brooks Koepka, Sudarshan, Yelam Raju, and Matai Schmid tied for 59th with 3 under. Zach Bichot, Doug Rim, Sam Ryder, Mackenzie Hughes. 63rd, 2 under, S.H. Kim. 64th with 1 under is Keita Nakajima, tied for 65th at even. Tom Kim, Marcelo Rosa, Emiliano Gonzalez, and Wyndham Clark. 69th, 1 over, Mark Hubbard. Tied for 70th, 2 over, Jackson Suber, Tom Hogue, Rico Hoey, and Cam Davis. 74th with 3 over, Kensei Hirata. Among those cut notables, Stephen Fisk, Xander Schauffele, Patrick Cantlay, Taylor Pendrith, Dylan Wu, Max Treasterman, Chandler Phillips, Laverne Allison, Gary Woodling, B.U. Hostler, Austin Smotherman, Will Zalatoris, Gordon Sargent, Alex Loren, J.J. Spawn, Peter Malnati, Jeremy Paul, Matt Kuchar, Ashke Bahita, Max Homa, Aaron Weiss, Vincent Willey, Jordan Smith, David Ford, Henrik Norlander, Branson Eckert, Kevin Roy, Luke Liss, Luke Clanton, Adam Svensson, Alex Molly, Rafael Campos, Eric Van Rooyen, Andrew Putnam, Alejandro Tossi, Adrian Devonta Chazard, Lee Hodges, Matt Wallace, Hank Lebioda, Billy Horschel, Levy Goldberg, Frank Capon, S.T. Lee, and then now the next tournament up. I don't know. That's a good question. I think next week's a bye week because of the Super Bowl. They'll probably go back. They probably will have one on the day of the Daytona 500 or, that weekend. Okay, now we'll move on to on this day. We have to do 3 because we had Saturday and Sundays to do 2. Obviously, there was a big one in there as well. Brought to you by All Sports News. So on this day, January 31st, 2016, Calvin Johnson retires. 2015, Aaron Rodgers named NFL MVP. 2023, Broncos hire Sean Payton. Good hire. 2019, Mavs acquire Kristaps Porzingis from the Knicks. Never forget that day. 2024, Seahawks hire Mike McDonald. Good hire. 2023, Texans hire D'Amico Ryans. Right now, a solid hire. But I feel like if they don't have a good year, he could be the 2026-27 Sean McDermott. 2024, Canucks acquire Elias Lindholm. 2016, Novak Djokovic wins Australian Open. 2024, Jeff Hafley leaves Boston College for the Packers, and now he's the head coach of the Miami Dolphins. 2015, J.J. Watt named Defensive Player of the Year. 2015, Aaron Donald named Defensive Rookie of the Year. And 2025, the Rangers acquired J.T. Miller. Like I said, that they made that trade a year too late, or 6 months too late. They probably should have done it the year before when they were the President's Trophy, or they should have done it in the summer, or else maybe last season's different. All right, so February 1st headlines. So this was from Sunday. 2015, the Patriots defeat the Seahawks in Super Bowl 49. 2013, Tom Brady retires. I think that was when he actually retired. Yeah, that was when he actually retired. 2025, Lakers acquire Luka Doncic. Well, that technically was on the 2nd, but it was, I think it got tweeted out at like 12:02 a.m. on February 2nd, essentially. And I remember they played the Knicks that night. They won, and then that trade happened. 2014, Peyton Manning named NFL MVP. 2020, Lamar Jackson named NFL MVP. 2024, Orioles acquire Corbin Burns. Now looking back, not a good trade because he didn't stay. And then he left, and then they were not good last year. 2022, Caleb Williams transfers to USC. 2024, Commanders hire Dan Quinn. 2019, Julius Peppers retires. 2016, Suns fire Jeff Hornacek. 2017, the Blues fire Ken Hitchcock. And 2020, Troy Polamalu elected to Pro Football Hall of Fame. All right, and then on this day, February 2nd, so this is today's version of on this day. 2020, the Chiefs defeat the 49ers in Super Bowl 54. That was the Jimmy Garoppolo Super Bowl. And I think they took Lance the next year or the following year, which was to me the draft pick that's is the reason the 49ers haven't won in this era with Shanahan. 2014, the Seahawks defeat the Broncos in Super Bowl 48. Yours truly was at that game. 2019, Patrick Mahomes named NFL MVP. 2022, Washington football team rebrands to Commanders, which I like the name. 2025, the Spurs acquired De'Aaron Fox. That was a year ago today. 2015, the Falcons hired Dan Quinn. 2022, the Vikings hired Kevin O'Connell. 2019, Ed Reed elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. 2019, Saquon Barkley named Offensive Rookie of the Year. 2024, the Kings fired Todd McClellan. 2018, Ozzie Newsome to step down as GM of the Ravens. And 2020, Novak Djokovic wins Australian Open. So there you have it for on this day. Now move on to the news and notes for today. A lot of big things, obviously. There was an NBA trade over the weekend, but not the one everybody was hoping for, or not the name everybody was hoping for, per se. But we'll get to that in a second. Chris Paul's future is in limbo. There's no substantial movement in trade talks for him after being sent home by the Clippers. Yeah, he just has no value around the NBA. We talked about the goalie brawl the other night in the outdoor game. So, David Pastrnak says overtime penalty a joke as he's upset after nullified goal in the Stadium Series loss. The Lightning wore Bucks uniforms as Baker Mayfield led out the Lightning in the jerseys before the Stadium Series game. LeBron and Alex Ovechkin had a jersey swap in post-game when the Lakers played the Wizards the other night. So, the Giants widened the offensive coordinator search as ex-Titans coach Brian Callahan joins Cliff Kingsbury on the list. I'd rather have Cliff Kingsbury because of what he did with Jaden Daniels. But then again, somebody say, well, he ran Jaden Daniels into the ground. But somebody say Dan Quinn and Jaden Daniels didn't learn, and he got hurt, and hopefully Jackson Dart learns. And, well, guess who else learned? Drake May, who's now in the Super Bowl. So Giants add Donald D'Alessio, former Ravens defensive backs coach, joins Baltimore as defensive pass game coordinator and secondary coach. It means he joins the Giants. He joins all the people from Baltimore coming over. So 2027 5-star number one running back Keenan Spell commits to Georgia over Ohio State, Miami, Notre Dame, and Penn State, which is a pretty big one for them. No Cowboys and George Pickens talks. His team has not held any contact or contract negotiations with the agent. So Joe Burrow is on the Pro Bowl roster as he should be. He should be over his backup, Joe Flacco, and Shader. I think Shader's there for the ratings, and so is Joe Flacco. I mean, I'd rather have saw Phillip Rivers than any of those guys. Ravens hire Anthony Weaver as defensive coordinator. So that's a good hire for Jesse Winter. And the Dolphins are to hire Sean Duggan, Packers linebacker coach. That's its next DC. So the two coaching vacancies have been filled. The Raiders are hiring Clint Kubiak, the Seahawks offensive coordinator, and the Cardinals are hiring Rams offensive coordinator Mike LaFleur. I think the Kubiak hire is great. He was my favorite coordinator to come out. I think he's gotten a lot out of Sam Darnold and got a lot out of who was that quarterback on the Saints? Desmond Ridder? No, that was Atlanta. But there was a quarterback on the Saints that he got a lot out of when he was in New Orleans. Paul George, 25 game suspension for drug use. Like, he took the wrong medication and then he got suspended for it. Came out with an apology. That's a big blow for the Sixers. From a leadership standpoint, I think that he's been a voice and an impact for their young players. I know he's not the same players he used to be with the Pacers and then with the Thunder and the Clippers even. But still a big loss. I mean, obviously Embiid would have been a bigger loss because he still puts up the stats, but I think from a leadership standpoint, it's a bigger loss than you think. And he's losing over $11 million. Meanwhile, Sixers will get nearly $6 million in tax variance credit. And then Nick Nurse says, leading into the next man up mentality without PG. The Mavericks fired Jason Kidd, $35,000 for public criticism of the officiating, as he says he knows what the fuck he's doing with Cooper Flag. Dylan Brooks from the Sun says he has Wemby's number. He makes a bold claim about guarding Wemby. I think that is cockiness and arrogance out of him. A lot of people were watching the Darren Peterson AJ Bowl. AJ Dybonanza. Brooklyn, OKC, Spurs, and Indiana had execs in the house. Obviously, the Spurs keeping an eye on, and then OKC might have a good pick. You never know. There's an earthquake in Santa Clara. 4.2 earthquake. Over a dozen tremors struck Santa Clara early this morning, which is crazy. Madrid to host an NFL game as league reaches multi-year agreement to return to Madrid. WFAN found out what the game was. They announced it. So Jack Westover's family, the sister placed $5 on New England in the offseason and could get Westover's family $18,000. That's funny. And then the NFL is to play in Paris. Saints will participate in the league's first ever regular season game in the city. So that was the one that WFAN had. So Mitch Johnson to coach the All-Star game in the Western Conference after San Antonio improves to 33-16. Alex Volk wins or retains the UFC title as he wins the rematch against Diego Lopez by unanimous decision in UFC 325 main event. And then Shakur Stevenson defeats Lopez, unanimous decision win in boxing main event at MSG. We talked about Paul George's suspension, 25 games for violating league's anti-drug program. He said he made a mistake of taking improper medication. Gus Malzahn's retiring, former Auburn UFC head coach. Spent last season at Florida State's offensive coordinator. Ty Simpson on entering the draft as he explains choosing legacy over making millions in transfer portal. LeBron makes the All-Star game as a reserve. I'm not surprised with the Lakers having a winning record, and that's what it came down to. A lot of people thought it should have been Kawhi with the Clippers turnaround, but they're still under 500, and I think that the reason LeBron won over Kawhi is because Lakers have a winning record. Clippers, I know they turned their season around, but one word: aspiration. I think aspiration is why Kawhi's not an all-star, and rightfully so. The Clippers are going to get their karma, and I think that distracted them earlier in the year, and now they're red hot and probably going to make the play-in, maybe even the playoffs. They might avoid the play-in the way they're playing. They're a good basketball team. They just got off to a bad start, and then the aspiration scandal, I think, hurt them early on in the Chris Paul stuff. But good on them for not letting them distract them. And then Brian Windhorst reports that the Knicks believe in the core as they're unlikely the first major trade by the deadline. I hope Windhorst is right about this because I think the Knicks are doing the right thing. I mean, don't do anything major, just improve around the margins. Don't go balls to the wall for Giannis. He's always hurt. And I don't love the fit. And also, it's probably you admitting that you don't think Jalen Brunson can be the best guy on a championship team. Which I think he can. So the Senior Bowl was over the weekend. There's a lot of buzz about that. So here's the trade in the NBA. DeAndre Hunter to Sacramento. Dennis Schroeder, Keon Ellis heading to the Cavs in the 3-team deal with Chicago. And the Bulls get Dario Saric and 2 future second-round picks. I don't hate the trade for Cleveland and Chicago. I don't like it for Sacramento. And obviously the Kings, I look at this as like a buyer's move by the Kings, and they're just a delusional freaking team. And the Bulls, I think, smart asset management. And they could also flip Saric into something else. And I like it for Cleveland because it gives them some depth. And then the Hawks and the Blazers made a trade too. Is the Hawks sent Vit Krejci to Portland for Duop Reith and 2 future second-round picks. So I think this is just a precursor trade to something else. Maybe Giannis for one of them. Meanwhile, Doc doesn't see Giannis trade as he believes everyone will be here post-deadline. Giannis has said everything that he wanted that we need to hear. He wants to be a Buck. My favorite day of the year will be the day after the trade deadline. I think everyone will be here. I disagree with Doc. But if Doc's right, then this gets dragged on to the summer. And Dre's not worried about Giannis as Draymond Green ain't losing sleep over recent trade rumors. Jimmy, unlikely any Giannis deals, Warriors would have to include Green in a trade for Giannis for salary match purposes. And the Mavs are welcoming trade calls for AD, Klay Thompson, D'Angelo Russell, and Daniel Gafford. They're selling, it looks like. They know. Then they want to build around Cooper Flag, obviously. Baseball trade over the weekend. The White Sox fired Jordan Hicks and right-handed prospect David Sandlin from the Boston Red Sox. And they get Gage Zeal, a righty, in the trade with the White Sox. And then Eugenio Suarez goes back to the Reds, 1 year, $15 million. I like that deal. I think him in that ballpark can put up some stats, and if they're good, then he could be a big part of it. On the flip side, they're bad, you just trade them. And then the Red Sox didn't play a meaningful role in the market. Puerto Rico could decline the WBC as team may withdraw from the tournament after 8 players denied insurance coverage. Wow. The Giants are signing Luis Arraez, 1-year deal with the Giants. That's a nice pickup for them. Positional preference could be a determining factor, or it could have been. He wants to play second base. And the White Sox signed Austin Hayes, 1 year, $6 million. The Yankees are eyeing more bats as they're gouging prices for right-handed hitters in the outfield after bringing Bellinger back. They're looking at Austin Hayes, but he went to the White Sox, so I like that pickup for Chicago. And if they stink, he's traded at the deadline. And I think this is what the Yankees should be doing instead of eyeing more starting pitching, because I think their starting pitching is pretty good. Like, I don't know, everybody says that because they just ignore offense and it's all about pitching. I feel like it's all about pitching, it's all about goaltending, and it's all about quarterbacks. And it's all about the stars in the NBA. It should be the whole team. And then, so I think the Yankees are right for looking at right-handed bats. I think that's the right call for them. Kerr's optimistic about Stephen Curry. He doesn't believe Curry's knee injury is anything major after leaving the game against the Pistons. Jokic felt good in return as he was not scared to use knee and run after the injury. And then Steph's actually day-to-day. And then the 49ers are hiring Raheem Morris as their DC, replacing Robert Saleh. I don't hate that hire for the Niners. Bills wideout Mecole Hardman Jr. responds to suggestion Buffalo should get rid of him for cap space. I feel like that guy bounces around a lot. He scored the touchdown against the Broncos. And then Jim Leonard to join Joe Brady's staff as defensive coordinator of the Bills. So that's a nice hire for Joe Brady. And that's really it for news and notes. Best bet of the day brought to you by FanDuel. I have to admit something. I would have given out Charlotte minus 6.5 if the game didn't start while I recorded the podcast. If it was a later game, I would have given that out. And plus, matinee games get wacky a lot. So, my honorable mention best bet is Charlotte minus 6.5 against the Pelicans. With how good, though, that team has been playing. Another team I think has turned it on a little bit in the Western Conference who has a top 10 player against a team with a polarizing point guard that's in trade rumors and injuries galore to two big men and that point guard, and that is the Memphis Grizzlies. I love Minnesota minus 6.5 tonight against the Grizzlies. Love it. I don't know why Minnesota's only 6.5. Anthony Edwards is playing. I don't get it. But I love the bet. I love Minnesota minus 6.5 against Memphis tonight as well. Too many injuries on Memphis. Anthony Edwards easily best guy on the court. I mean, the only thing that could make me nervous here is I feel like whenever I bet Minnesota this year, I lose. I bet them as a home favorite against the Suns without Booker. They lost. They're in the Giannis sweepstakes. That could distract somebody like Julius Randle, who we've seen blow up because of stuff like this. And maybe even Gobert to some degree. But this is a bet on Anthony Edwards being the best guy on the court and a bet against the Grizzlies, who are missing John Morant, Zach Edey, and Almada. So there you have it for the show. I'll be back tomorrow recapping everything and looking ahead to everything come tomorrow. Hope you guys have a great day, everyone.